Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I'm in desperate need for advice, and I cannot really talk to those in my family or my friends, as they are very angry on my behalf and want me to scorch the earth and burn all the bridges. I met my now ex about 3 years ago. I was 22 and he was 27. We got along really well at first, and we stayed friends for a while. It wasn't until the very end of 2023 that we decided to go on a date. It was more of a joke date because we had a few friends that kept trying to push us together. However, being by myself with him that night really changed how I looked at him. We spent hours talking and laughing at dinner. I felt like we connected on a different level. We spoke about what each other wanted for our futures, and they almost completely aligned. We started going on several dates a week after that, some just to coffee shops or walks in the park with our dogs, others to nice restaurants or movies, etc. I say all this to show that the relationship was always easy, fun, and happy. We had very few disagreements, and those we did have were not about serious topics. It breaks my heart knowing that he was lying to me the whole time. We got engaged in May. I know it was fast, but it felt right, and planned our wedding for the last week of February. I'm Mexican, and he is Indian, so we planned a traditional Mexican wedding for the 23rd, and then the rest of the week were going to be the big parties and ceremonies following his family's traditions. 4 days ago, on Valentine's morning, I was approached by my ex's cousin at my home. I was finishing packing when she knocked on my door. We sat on the floor, since all my furniture had been moved, with coffee and started talking. We had been very close since before I started dating my ex, and the engagement just brought us closer. After some small talk, she told me that she had something serious and difficult to discuss with me. She wanted me to listen to a voice recording of my now ex and a family gathering of his. I was unable to attend due to work commitments. In this recording, he was bragging about a case he had a few years ago. He sounded drunk and was telling whoever he was with to not say anything to me. As I listened longer, he let details about his case slip, and it became apparent he was talking about a case that I was sued in. In 2020, I rear-ended a truck who slammed on their brakes while we were coming up to a red light. I wasn't paying proper attention and hit the truck's back bumper. We were going less than 10 miles an hour when it happened, and the truck had one scratch above the license plate as a result. I called my insurance and reported the accident. Within an hour, I was being told by my insurance that the driver of the truck had retained a lawyer and were claiming there were 5 people in the truck and all had serious injuries. The couple that were in the truck didn't know we had a lot of mutual friends who they bragged to. They bragged to the mutual friends that they were going to get all the money they could because I looked rich, and openly admitted to those friends all the lies they were claiming, which included the amount of people in the car, all the injuries, and their lawyer insisted on claiming injuries and emotional trauma from the accident. I was also told by these mutual friends that their lawyer had given them my address and phone number, which then led to harassing phone calls, messages, and people parking in front of my driveway and blocking my car in. There was much more, but then this post would get longer than it already is. It was terrifying and emotionally exhausting. It did not end until a few of those friends told me that they would volunteer to be witnesses in court if needed. I called my insurance and spoke with the investigator assigned to my case and let him know everything with my friend's permission. Within a week, the case was settled and they got a payout. My insurance rate almost doubled. The whole situation from the accident to settlement lasted almost an entire year. It was exhausting, frustrating, and horrible. I now know that their lawyer was my ex-fiance. The law firm which handled the case was owned by my ex-fiance, which he relocated and renamed before we met, almost immediately after the case closed. According to the voice recording, he apparently knew who I was not long after we first met. Knowing that he pushed those people to harass me, to lie, and try to get me to pay them on the side broke my heart. I asked his cousin how she got the recording, and she told me she was there, and when she realized the situation he was talking about, she began recording on her phone. At that moment, I felt as though the floor was ripped out from under me. I even thought about forgiving him, until she showed me the messages between my ex-fiance and her. She confronted him about it the next day, and instead of feeling remorseful, he threatened her and said he would reveal her previous drinking problem to her husband. I gave up on the relationship in that moment. I couldn't believe what I was reading, but I confirmed it was his number, and the time was when he was with me on a lunch date. I recall he had been on his phone a lot throughout the date and was a little more irritable that day. I broke off the engagement the next day. I went to his house with my brother, cousins, dad, and uncles to get all my stuff and move back to my house while I spoke with him. I wanted to know why he did what he did years ago and why he would let our relationship get this far. I didn't get any meaningful answers. He just kept repeating himself and saying that he loves me. He didn't think it was a big deal, and I should be able to forgive him. I gave him his ring back and told him no, it was over. I called his parents immediately after I left and told them what happened and why. I explained that nothing they could say would allow me to trust their son again. They were quiet on the phone and didn't say much. I went home and cried. My sister and mother handled canceling what they could of the things I paid for. All was quiet until yesterday. His whole family has been calling me, messaging me, emailing me, and showing up at my house to try to convince me to get back with him. I keep being told that I was too hasty in my decision, but I don't believe I was. I spent an entire 24 hours trying to convince myself I can move on and stay with him before I called my dad and asked him to help me move my stuff. However, the onslaught of messages, phone calls, and now visits have been a lot to handle. I don't know what to do at this point. I'm exhausted, overwhelmed, and I feel like crying every 5 minutes. Maybe I have made a hasty decision, but I can't see myself trusting him again. And I can't see him as the same man with the good morals I fell in love with. OP is not being hasty. What he did was calculated and deceitful, and that's not something you can just move past. He knew who OP was before the relationship even began, knew what he had done to OP, and chose to keep OP in the dark. The fact that he didn't come clean on his own is bad enough, but the additional threats he made to his own cousin and the way he handled the confrontation show that he hasn't changed. OP is allowed to prioritize her own well-being and trust her instincts. If OP's friends and family are angry on OP's behalf, it's because they see what a betrayal this is and how much OP deserves better. And now let's hear the community's opinion. If it continues, get a restraining order. You absolutely made the right call. What a douche. I bet it gave him such an ego boost, knowing how he manipulated you before you met and continued to do so once you entered a relationship. Why would you want to get in a relationship with someone who obviously enjoys inflicting pain on someone? His family is terrorizing you the same way the people from the accident did. Unforgivable. He lied, and I don't lie, so I don't expect to be lied to, especially by my spouse. Best of luck to you. You did the right thing. They and him want you back because if you take this information with evidence to your insurance company and a lawyer, he'd be in so much trouble. They're harassing you because you've caved to harassment once before, and they want to break you down again. You don't need to be on Reddit. You need to be talking to a lawyer. Update. Thank you so much for those who have given advice and kind words. It has been helpful, and I was not expecting this many responses. I can't respond to everyone, so I want to say thank you. Last night when I posted, I was emotional and a little lost on what to do. I woke up this morning and decided to take action. I would like to address a few things I've read in the comments. First one is, I didn't make the connection of him being the specific lawyer by name because all communication between my insurance company and his lawyer that I was privy to only showed the lawyer's last name, such as Mr. Last Name, and my ex-fiance's last name is one of the most common last names in his culture. I never Googled anything because the accident happened right before virus shutdowns in our area. And as I was doing my schooling/training as a pediatric nurse, my life was insane at the time. When I met my ex, I recognized the last names were the same, but the law firms were in different cities and had different names, so I never gave it a second thought. Second, we were not together during the events caused by the accident. We didn't know each other. We didn't meet until 2022, about 2, almost 3 months before I turned 23. And the car accident case was closed in very early 2021. Third, from what I understand, he was born in the U.S., but grew up in India and got his law degree there before moving back to the U.S., and went through the process of getting an LLM and then state boards. Then his parents gave him money to set up his law firm. I knew all this before we started dating, and I just assumed he was speaking about his current law firm. And no, I haven't ever looked into it deeper. I just took what he has told everyone in our friend group as the truth. Based on the date of the accident, he was 25 when the accident happened, and the case was closed before he turned 26, and never went to court because I was told by my insurance there was a lack of evidence. I wasn't told the particulars of their injuries in order to not prevent any HIPAA allegations. I was only told of the general nature of the injuries being claimed: back pain and emotional trauma. My insurance paid them a small portion of my liability limit because the accident was my fault, and I believe they just wanted to close the case. But again, I was told there was no evidence to back up their claims. I then met my ex a few days after his 27th birthday. If I'm remembering a particular conversation correctly, he said he was 24 when he received his license to practice law. Fourth, I've spoken with his cousin. She says her and her husband are fine. She spoke to him before speaking with me because, as she put it, he knew she was an alcoholic, which is why she never drinks. But he never asked or pushed about the details of her life before he met her. So I guess she told him everything that my ex-fiance could hold over her head, and told him what her cousin threatened. She has sent me the voice recording and screenshots of the text messages. She has assured me she and her family will be fine. She's also informed me that his parents paid for all his schooling, as well as covering the rent for his current and previous office space, the cost to change the name of his law firm, and the startup cost of his law firm, which she believes is the reason why they are heavily pushing for us to get back together, so they don't lose out on their, as she puts it, investment in their son. Since yesterday, I've decided to kick my butt into gear and stop feeling sorry for myself. Thank you to those who made it clear to me that the relationship was never what I thought it was. I didn't realize it, but up until yesterday, I was thinking of my ex in the same light as I thought of him during our relationship. I now truly realize that man never existed. He was not showing me himself, but a reflection of what I wanted in a partner. I've spoken to my family who have traveled to the town I'm currently living in for the wedding, and they agreed that I should move back home. I've also reached out to a few law firms, and am waiting to hear back to set up appointments. I want to know what are the legalities in reporting him to the state bar, and I will be pursuing restraining orders on all those I can. I also have spoken to my work and direct supervisor, and they agreed to lessen my hours to part-time, since I have found coverage for about half of my shifts until my already scheduled PTO starts. I can't with good conscience leave yet, as there's a shortage of nurses in my area, so I'm giving my work time to find a replacement. Also, this is my first official job as a pediatric nurse with the title, and I don't want it to end badly. I would like to have a good letter of recommendation from them for after I move. I do have some cameras around my house, but my dad went to Costco this morning to buy some more, and my landlord has agreed with letting my dad install them. My sister and mother have also talked to me about slowing down with how I planned my life and standing up for myself. I admit, I do not like conflict and tend to avoid it as much as possible, even when it infringes on my well-being. I tend to get this unpleasantly hot feeling all over my body and get very nauseous when I have to deal with confrontation. However, thanks to you Redditors and my family, I will deal with my situation head-on, as I cannot see any other way to resolve this. I no longer believe his family will back off or calm down unless confronted with legal repercussions, and I will try my best to not cower away from the conflict. I will update after speaking to a lawyer. Again, thank you to those who commented. I truly appreciate it. Sorry guys, but OP never updated about what happened next. I, 23 female, just finished my master's degree in social work a few weeks ago. It was a really big deal for me, first in my family to get a graduate degree, and I worked full-time during school just to make it happen. So my close friends and I planned a small dinner the weekend after graduation to celebrate. I invited my dad, my 2 younger brothers, my best friend, and a couple of classmates I'm close with. I also invited my mom, but not her husband, Doug. For context, my mom remarried about 6 months ago. She and Doug started dating pretty fast after her divorce from my dad, like within 2 months. which was already kind of jarring. But I've been trying to be polite and open. That said, Doug and I don't exactly click. He's very opinionated, loud in conversations, and kind of dismissive of everything he doesn't agree with. At Thanksgiving, he made a comment about my degree being woke nonsense and said something like, "Hopefully you'll find a real job someday." My mom laughed awkwardly, didn't say anything, and I just kind of swallowed it for the sake of the holiday. But that really stuck with me. So when I was putting together this dinner, I made a choice to invite my mom, but not extend the invite to Doug. I didn't say he's not allowed or anything. I just worded the message so it was clear it was for her, not her and plus one. I figured if she really needed to bring him, we'd cross that bridge. Well, she declined the invite and told me later she felt excluded and like I was punishing her for being happy. I explained my reasons, how this was a small personal dinner and I didn't feel comfortable having Doug there. I even offered to do a separate lunch or something with her and Doug another time. She wasn't interested. Now she's not talking to me, and my aunt, her sister, says I should have just sucked it up because he's part of her life now and I'm being disrespectful. I'm honestly torn. I didn't want to make this dinner about anything other than celebrating my graduation. But maybe I did make it weird. Was I being petty, or was I just setting a boundary? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Ask your aunt why you have to just suck it up when it's a celebration for you. Your mom should suck it up and support her daughter. The dinner is about your achievement and those who support you. Your mother's husband is not one of those, so why invite someone who isn't supportive? Congratulations on graduating. Have your dinner with those who love and support you and enjoy your moment. Not the a-hole. Your mom is being disrespectful, making your graduation dinner all about her inability to go to a function without her emotional support bigot. You and everyone else would not have a great time at an event to celebrate your graduation if Doug starts rabbiting on about woke nonsense and real jobs, most of which are probably a figment of his imagination, since jobs have changed quite a lot in the last few decades. And social work most definitely is a real job, and a valuable one in my opinion. Not the a-hole. Doug doesn't consider your degree real, so why on earth would he expect to be invited to a celebration of it? Tell your mom, we'll miss you during dinner, but I've earned this celebration and only want to be surrounded by people who supported me on this journey. That is not Doug. If you feel you have to put his feelings above celebrating your daughter, that's your choice. But know this decision will affect future celebrations I may host and who I choose to or not to invite. Basically, let her know that her actions will have consequences. Congrats on your graduation.